Metabolic Truth with AI and Dr. Clyde. That's me. In this first conversation, how to use consciousness as a slop detector. You'll see the reason for the shades halfway through this discussion. I'm just going to read my essay I've written over the last few days on this. Unfortunately for your metabolic health and fitness, AI turns out to be more artificial than it is intelligent. Meta's chief AI scientist, Jan LeCun, said it in an interview about why intelligent machines stay dumb, quote, AI systems are in many ways very stupid. We are fooled into thinking they are smart because they can manipulate language very well. That sounds like some people I know. But at least humans might be smart by knowing the truth, right? In the paper entitled, Is Chain of Thought Reasoning of Large Language Models a Mirage?, the authors point out that LLMs are brittle because they, quote, are not principled reasoners, but rather sophisticated simulators of reasoning like text, and that, quote, rather than demonstrating a true understanding of text, chain of thought reasoning under task transformations reflect a replication of patterns learned during training. In other words, LLMs are fancy repetitive recordings of whatever they were trained on, so the experience of interacting with them is not fundamentally different from feeling like you're connecting with a song you're singing along with. In Sabine Hassenfender's video on the underwhelming performance of GPT-5, entitled, quote, Have We Finally Hit the AI Scaling Wall?, she discusses how the computing power required to reduce the errors, creating slop in large language models, grows 20 orders of magnitude faster than the rate of error reduction. The result is that the AI user experience will not further improve significantly beyond its current form, and general AI will not be achieved using LLMs. This points to the core reality that LLMs are not actually intelligent, and improving something that is not intelligent cannot lead to superintelligence any more than a better movie makes that movie somehow more real. A better version of fake does not transform into reality. In Sabine's commentary, she points out that by itself, language is just an incredibly poor descriptor of how nature fundamentally works. There's only so much one can infer from it. She goes on to say that intelligence must include the ability to probe and test ideas, whereas models using language or world foundation models that also use video and other sensory input for gaming and robotics base their feedback directly from input to simulate intelligence. Perhaps our emotions both lead to our believing in slop and our ability to detect it when it is important enough for us to care, creating an evolutionary advantage for consciousness as a slop detector. So, my conscious friends, can we use our gut feelings on information to figure out what's true? Jonathan Haidt, the social psychologist and author, said in a BBC Global interview that because of AI, quote, we have no idea what's true. We are never going to know what's true again for a very long time, if ever. Okay, maybe we can just use scientific papers to figure out what is true. But AI is complicating that as well. In July 2025, Nature reported that over 10,000 papers had recently been published containing AI slop in an article entitled, quote, low-quality papers based on public health data are flooding the scientific literature, end quote. In the end, it seems AI is more A than it is I as it pastes together content, including content it had previously recycled that was posted and is now being reharvested into a swirling soup of slop. And that soup is increasingly supported by a foundation of AI slop research, used as the basis for its credibility. The infinite regress of turtles all the way down increasingly applies to information being slop all the way down. So much for advanced technology leveraging the intelligence of our species. Or maybe it's not as bad as all that. When used as a tool instead of as an answer, AI becomes a powerful extension of our internal thought process. In other words, AI should be seen as a collaboration, wherein we think of ourselves as the intelligent or I part. Turning off our intelligence by letting an artificial one replace our thought process is no different than driving under the influence. It's a kind of DUAI. The worst extreme would be walking around with super smart goggles while interacting with each other by using AI prompts fed to us by the goggles, in the way that the Terminator had response options fed to him. In one scene, his onboard AI chose the culturally appropriate response, F you, a-hole. But We could also choose PhD level responses that eliminate our need to be educated at all, meaning AI would have hijacked us as meaty robots to get a jump start on the apocalypse before it had time to build up enough robots. I'll leave that possibility to Hollywood so that I can circle back to our discussion on how to discern truth for getting healthier and fitter while it still matters. To collaborate with AI, you must supply the intelligence, which ultimately comes down to guiding the artificial parts so that it empowers your thinking in a meaningful way. Intelligence builds and uses knowledge, but in a world where truth has become ambiguous, what counts as knowledge must be stripped down to its bare essence so that its truth is clearly obvious to everyone. With that in mind, focus on what you know about what keeps us alive. Based on our immediate, undeniable experience, we must breathe, eat, sleep, and react to pain points, which includes breathing, eating, and sleeping, as well as the more complex processes that preserve our DNA, which include our drives for safety and offspring. Reacting to our world extends our pain points beyond the physiological into the psychological. We react to survive in the short term by running from a tiger, and in the long term with social connection, meaning, and purpose. These are natural, undeniable pain points that we are forced to acknowledge whether we want to or not. If you ignore them, you suffer. AI indicates that death occurs in roughly 5 minutes without breathing, in a few days to a week without water, a few weeks to a month without food, and probably that long with zero sleep, for which the world record is just under a few weeks. But this is no longer monitored since death is a potential side effect. AI says connection, meaning, and purpose are associated with a longer lifespan and better physical and mental health during that lifespan, which combined are referred to as health span. How we react to and interact with ourselves, others, and our environment determines whether we're eaten by a tiger today or eat ourselves up from inside with stress over decades. Breathing, eating, and sleeping are reactions that we are driven to do whether we like it or not, just like reacting to the tiger as we search for safety, or reacting to an emotional vacuum as we search for connection, meaning, and purpose. From the perspective of metabolism, the simple concept of the tiger versus the complex concepts of meaning and purpose converge in the autonomic nervous system's fight or flight versus rest and digest responses. In other words, we can simplify the broad range of how we react to life by focusing on our complex experience and how it boils down to an autonomic survival response. The drives to breathe, eat, and sleep are also autonomic responses. However, in everyday practical terms, we think of the stressful pain points of needing to breathe, eat, and sleep as being more physiological than psychological, as opposed to the reverse scenario and how we think about the concept of stress per se, which we associate more with the mind, since an earlier death is not as immediate, unless the connection with others is referring to a tiger, real or imagined. The beauty of creating our metabolic intelligence with our immediate, obvious reactions for self-preservation is that it enables us to create a metabolic model or mental framework to better harvest the benefits of AI. A model connects the dots between data points in a way that helps us to make sense of that data. In other words, data is not meaningful by itself, but connecting the dots between data points creates a sense of understanding. Understanding is, therefore, the emotional response of being satisfied that data or information makes sense. Knowing is actually a warm, fuzzy feeling, regardless of whether or not it is connected to objective truth. If new data comes in that disrupts that emotional response, the pursuit for truth in the form of a modified model is reinitiated. Replacing a model entirely is called a paradigm shift, like when Nicholas Copernicus put the sun at the center of our universe. The famous statistician George Box stated that models are inherently incorrect and exist for the sole purpose of being useful. And Einstein suggested that we should keep things as simple as possible but no simpler, implying that below a minimum threshold of simplicity, important concepts get ignored, making a model dysfunctional. Calories in, calories out is too simple, whereas fat diets go to the opposite extreme with unneeded complexity that hinder progress. We want the Goldilocks zone that is just right. The perfect porridge puts together our simplest set of survival drives into the simplest sequence of how they occur within us. The oxygen we breathe and nutrients we eat are delivered through our circulation to our cells, where they create energy and building blocks, starting with our proteins, which are encoded by our DNA. Sleep is critical to recuperating this system, and stress activates our system but slowly breaks it down. In terms of lifestyle choices, This sequence of events, which I call our metabolic flow, is regulated by the metabolic levers of sleep, nutrition, movement, and stress management, in that order. While the metabolic flow of energy production starts with breathing, it is reasonable to think of sleep as the first step, in that our genetic code enables our physical being to make use of breathing and eating to begin with. When our energy needs are lowered during sleep, DNA gene expression shifts towards recuperative protein production. Sleep is, therefore, our metabolic foundation, creating a purpose for eating and breathing. These can also be viewed as equal partners in that DNA gene expression nourishes our cells with gene copies from within the nucleus, in the same way that air and food provide nourishment to our cells through the circulation. It is the convergence of these nourishing elements that creates the structure and energetic drive underlying the vitality of your cells and you. The bottom line is this: we all have to breathe, eat, sleep, and react. And we can help the body to efficiently meet its needs to survive by helping it to thrive using sleep, nutrition, movement, and stress management. Recall that the term stress is an oversimplification of the complex range of reactions that shift us away from connecting with tigers towards connecting with meaningful purpose. Movement includes exercise that increases the efficiency of oxygen delivery from breathing and increases the fitness of lean tissue that uses oxygen to burn nutrients while driving our quality of life and health span. Staying in bed to eat, breathe, and sleep is not enough to optimize health and fitness. Movement is every bit as important in how we react to, and therefore engage with, our lives. Our mental and physical reactions are equally important for survival. The autonomic nervous system serves as a powerful conduit between these, effectively creating a mind-body connection that unites your body and mind into one living being, which is you. By reclaiming our natural connection to how our core pain points operate in sequence within us, we automatically create a mental model that helps enable us to leverage AI to our advantage without AI leading us astray. Engaging in a constructive interaction together with AI, wherein it provides the A to leverage our I, is critical to realizing its full potential and value. Up next, we will use the power of AI to create functionally relevant targets to drive metabolic health and fitness, including protein needs, fasting protocols, weight loss without muscle loss, and other key concepts. These discussions will leverage my quarter century of teaching of well over 100 classes on food pharmacology, personalizing nutrition, sports nutrition, kinesiology, and metabolism at Stanford University, as well as food pharmacology at the University of California, San Francisco, where I've been doing research on metabolism since 2002. I'm excited to embark on this journey with each of you and hope it initiates meaningful, productive discussions with real people. This is Dr. Clyde, the real one, saying see you next time, or I'll be back.